My name is Maeve Arden, 33 years old. The rosemary keeps catching on my fingertips, tiny green needles perfuming the air as I tuck the last sprigs around the turkey. The bird glistens with lacquered skin, bronze the way my grandmother taught me, brush, rest, brush again, patience turned into flavor. The silver tray is so polished, it throws my face back at me in a warped mirror. Cheeks flushed, hair pinned, a woman who knows how to run 1,000 moving parts and make it look effortless. From the dining room, my mother's voice floats in like a ribbon pulled tight. "This is our Melissa," she trills, honey poured over fine china. "The family's pride and joy. She's handling public relations for Bloomfield Industries now. Senior position, you know, only 29 and already making waves." A low murmur of appreciation answers her, the Connecticut chorus of old money, old favors. I can pick out the dry baritone of Senator Williams, the brittle clink of Waterford Crystal, the laugh that belongs to someone who never has to ask the price. The swinging door breathes with their conversations. Inhale, exhale, and every exhale seems to say, "Not you." I steady the tray, square my shoulders, and push through. The chandelier scatters light across the table like diamonds on snow. Wedgwood plates, sterling cutlery, napkins folded into swans, because once upon a time I thought they would love beauty if I made enough of it. 12 faces turn toward me, or rather, toward what I carry. My mother's smile tightens with performative warmth. "Here she is now," Evelyn announces. "At least Maeve is useful for something." A laugh ripples, too polite to be obvious, too loud to be kind. I set the turkey in the center of the table, anchoring it among the gleam and polish and expectation. My sister sits at the far end beside the senator, her blonde hair catching the chandelier's fire, her hand hovering at her throat in the practiced gesture of a woman accustomed to attention. "PR is all about narrative," Melissa says, and the senator's wife leans closer like she's tasting dessert before it's served. "The cranberry sauce is my grandmother's recipe," I manage, and my voice surprises me by holding steady. "Orange peel, a little clove." My mother flutters a hand. Maeve always did have a knack for following instructions. I swallow the heat pushing up my throat and turn the carve to my father. Richard Hale is still tall, even with the stoop of age, his hair silver, his expression neutral to the point of erasure. He pours himself wine with the deliberation of a man who learned long ago to survive dinner tables by appearing not to take sides. "Looks excellent," he says quietly, as if excellence were a weather pattern none of us control. There's a place card at the seat nearest the kitchen door. It says my name in my mother's looping script, as though I need reminding which chair is mine. I do not sit. I move. I serve. I am efficient. I am what I have been trained to be in this house. Invisible labor, visible result. I glide through conversation the way I do at my events, refilling glasses, anticipating needs, slipping into the silence before it becomes discomfort. The difference is that strangers pay me for it and sometimes thank me. Family assumes. I am 33 years old. In the last 2 years, I have coordinated a presidential fundraiser, a film premiere in a tropical storm, and a hospital gala that cleared 7 figures for pediatric oncology. In the last 2 hours, I basted a turkey and bit my tongue so hard it will bruise. "Tell me," Senator Williams says to Melissa, "how do you manage a narrative in a crisis?" "Oh, it's about control," she smiles. "Who speaks, when, and with what authority?" I'm close enough to catch the glint in her eye when she says authority. Close enough to see the way my mother's lips soften when the praise moves toward her younger daughter, as if heat seeks heat. I set down a platter of roasted carrots, hands moving on their own, while my mind travels the tightrope it always walks in this house. Balance between being good and being gone. "Your other daughter?" someone asks, a guest with diamond earrings like fallen stars. "And what does she do?" There is the briefest pause. My mother is an artist with pauses. "Maeve is around somewhere," she says. "She's quite handy in the kitchen." The words thud into me with a familiar dullness. 15 years since I incorporated Arden & Co. events. 15 years building a reputation out of crisis management and quiet miracles. 15 years of watching Melissa unwrap adoration like a habit and me untying aprons. I think of my office in the city, the slate wall where we wrote Q1 targets in chalk, the way Elizabeth's eyes shone last week when we signed the preliminary agreement for Horizon Resort's national rebrand. "They never saw you coming," she'd said, her tone equal parts awe and mischief. We laughed in the elevator all the way to the lobby, the kind of laugh that loosens your ribs. If tonight is narrative, then my mother is not the only one who understands control. The senator's wife catches my eye as I pour her water. She offers a small, sympathetic smile that lands like a bandage on a bruise you're pretending not to have. I nod, professional. Elizabeth would be furious for me if she were here. James would shake his head and say numbers speak louder than rooms like this. But Elizabeth is at her sister's in Nyack, and James is somewhere with his grandchildren trying to assemble a spaceship out of cardboard and ambition. I am here alone, which is exactly how this house operates best. One woman against a system built to make her doubt the definition of worth. "Dessert," my mother says to me, not a question. The senator is waiting. I glance toward the sideboard where pies and trifles line up like soldiers. Pumpkin, pecan, chocolate truffle tart with orange zest and sea salt. The one recipe my mother pretends to love because guests request it by name. The kitchen calls to me like a sanctuary I might mistake for a cell. I remove my apron, not enough to be defiant, just enough to breathe. "I need a moment," I say. Evelyn's eyes narrow a fraction. "Don't be dramatic, Maeve. This is what you're good at." My father appears in the doorway as if summoned by the tension. He looks past me to the pies. "Is there a problem?" "None at all," my mother answers. "Maeve is having one of her moments." I'm not having a moment. The thought lands with such clarity that I hear its edges. I am having an awakening. "I'll bring dessert," I tell them, and my voice is calm enough to make my own pulse curious. Back in the kitchen, the marble is cool beneath my palms. Outside, snow has begun to lay a lace of frost across the estate, each flake caught by the floodlights like confetti from a world that claps for me elsewhere. I stare at the trifles and see not layers of custard and sponge, but an inventory of my compromises. I remember the first Christmas dinner I cooked here. 18, newly accepted to culinary school. The wrong decision in the right life. I remember calling my grandmother from the pantry, whispering instructions, crying because the lamb was overcooked, and I thought I had ruined my chance to be loved. She told me to make a sauce and to stop mistaking hunger for affection. My phone buzzes on the counter, a text from Elizabeth. "You alive? Need extraction?" There is an inside joke stitched into those words, an escape route we invented years ago and use only when the oxygen drops. I don't write back yet. I lift the trifle spoon. In the other room, my mother is curating introductions, like a museum docent of legacy. "The Hendersons," she purrs. "The Williamsons." Names that once made me feel small now feel like ledger entries and leverage points. The Henderson daughter is in legal at Horizon. I file the coincidence away, only it doesn't feel like coincidence, not anymore. Lately, I have noticed how clients get skittish the week after family gatherings, how a health inspector appeared an hour before the governor's fundraiser last spring because of an anonymous tip, how Melissa started swinging by my office to say hi on the exact days I signed new contracts. The spoon sinks into velvet custard. I hold it in the air until my hand stills. "Authority," Melissa said. "Control. Narratives." I think about the Horizon contract and the way my mother's smile tightened when I mentioned it last month. I think about the country club reading room where my family whispers strategy like grace. A prickling at the base of my neck says I already know more than I have admitted to myself. It says their dismissals have always been active verbs. It says I have confused their silence with absence. "Maeve," my mother's voice knifes through the door, sweet at the edges, sharp at the center. "The senator doesn't have all night." "I'm coming," I answer, and the words feel like walking to the edge of a cliff to see what the view looks like without deciding whether to jump. I arrange the desserts on a silver trolley and roll it forward, composing my face the way I compose event timelines. No gaps, no drops. As the door swings open, conversation halts for the length of a heartbeat and then resumes, louder. I serve with professional grace, and people who would never hire me to pour water thank me for doing it here. When the final plate leaves my hand, I meet Melissa's eyes across the length of polished wood and crystal. There is a glimmer there I cannot name, satisfaction or challenge or simple reflection, but it catches like glass in the gut. My phone buzzes again in my pocket. Elizabeth's code. Horizon. Okay? I breathe once, slow. My mother leans toward the senator, her bracelet chiming like a clock. Isn't it a marvel, she says, how well things turn out when everyone knows their place. It lands like a line in a script I have performed too many times. I let the silence stretch inside me until it is a room with windows. I look out of it and see the driveway, the snow, the city beyond it, where my name means something that does not require apology. I see the club where whispers grow legs. I see a boardroom where documents speak louder than mothers. I smile. Not the practiced event smile that greases gears, but the small, private curve that tastes like decision. I don't give it to anyone. I keep it. I carry plates back to the kitchen. I text Elizabeth 3 words. Stand by for signal. In the din behind me, laughter skates along crystal. In front of me, the marble waits, cold and clean. I rest my palms on it, feel the steadiness travel up my arms, and let the rebellion I've kept folded like a linen napkin unfurl in the quiet. Just a moment, I whisper to no one at all, and in that moment I begin to choose myself. The snow on the windshield blurs into streaks as Elizabeth's car glides down the dark Connecticut road. I sit rigid in the passenger seat, my purse clutched too tightly in my lap, pulse still echoing with the dinner I fled. The house behind me burns in my mind like a lantern that never warms. Elizabeth glances sideways, auburn hair tucked behind her ear, her voice careful. Same as last year? Worse, I murmur. She doesn't press. She never does. That's what makes her the only person I trust in moments like this. She just drives, heater humming, until the ache in my chest breaks into words. They know exactly what I do for a living, Liz. They just choose not to see it. Elizabeth exhales slowly, nodding like she's filing the sentence away. Then maybe it's time you stop waiting for them to see. Her words sting, not because they're cruel, but because they're true. I watch the blur of lights outside, each one reminding me of something I built without them. Fundraisers that saved lives, galas that raised fortunes, clients who believed in me. I think about the Horizon contract, the national rebrand that could take Aurora events global. If I win it, my company will step onto a stage my family can't ignore. Yet tonight proved even that might not be enough for them. We ride in silence until Manhattan's skyline cuts into the horizon, jagged with light. Elizabeth pulls up to my brownstone office, the place where I spend more hours than my own apartment. You don't have to go back there, she says softly. Not unless you want to. I close my eyes, the image of my mother's dismissive wave still burning. This was the last time, I whisper. The words taste different, final. Inside, the office smells like paper and lemon cleaner. My assistant left the holiday poinsettia on my desk, its red bracts bright against the gray. I sit in the leather chair, exhaling for what feels like the first time tonight. Elizabeth perches on the edge of the desk, folding her arms. They'll never give you approval, Maeve, you know that. But I keep asking for it anyway, I admit, fingers tightening on the armrest. Like a child begging at a locked door. She leans closer, eyes fierce. You're not a child. You're the woman they can't control. The sentence roots in me like a spark in dry tinder. For a second, I see my mother's narrowed eyes. When I remove my apron, Melissa's little smirk across the table, my father's silence heavy as stone. Their control only works if I keep standing in their kitchen. Elizabeth straightens, voice gentler now. The Horizon contract is your proof. Once that's signed, no one, not even Evelyn Hale, can rewrite your story. I nod, though a part of me still wonders, what if they try? The next morning, pale winter sun filters through my blinds. I brew strong coffee, stare at the Horizon files, stacked like fortresses on my desk. Every detail matters. Vendor logistics, city permits, marketing synergy. I run my fingers across the embossed portfolio cover. This contract isn't just business, it's vindication. By noon, I head to the Willowbrook Country Club. Elizabeth insisted I retrieve the portfolio I left in my father's study weeks ago. They'll be busy at the board meeting, she said. You'll slip in, slip out. The club is hushed marble and chandeliers, ancestral portraits glaring down like silent judges. My heels click across the floor, each sound reminding me I don't belong and yet somehow do. As I turn toward the library, I hear a laugh. Melissa's. I freeze. The contract signing is next week, she says, her voice low but edged with triumph. So your timing couldn't be better. My mother's reply follows, crisp and certain. Christine, Maeve, has no idea we know about Horizon. The Williamsons confirmed it's worth millions. My pulse hammers. I edge closer, pressing against the cold wood paneling near the cracked door. Keep your voice down, my father mutters. No one's here, Melissa dismisses, the same arrogance she used on every high school teacher who dared give her less than an A. Besides, who cares about Maeve's little catering business? Event planning, Evelyn corrects sharply, which is exactly why Horizon is dangerous. The Williamsons mentioned her by name at Christmas, before we could redirect. Redirect? My breath catches. I've been calling her vendors for months, Melissa continues, dropping hints about financial instability. Most of them were receptive, especially once I mentioned my PR expertise. The air leaves my lungs in a single rush. Months. She's been doing this for months. My father clears his throat. Is that wise? If she traces it back? She won't, my mother interrupts. Maeve still craves our approval too much to see what's in front of her. 15 years. And she still thinks we simply don't understand her business. The girl makes desserts for senators while serving them herself. The words slice deeper than any dismissal at the dinner table. They knew. They've always known. And the belittling wasn't ignorance, it was strategy. I grip the wall to keep from stumbling, every family slight reassembling in my mind with terrible clarity. Clients lost after family holidays. Vendors suddenly backing out. Anonymous tips before major events. None of it was bad luck. It was sabotage. My own blood-weaving snares while smiling across dinner tables. A rustle of papers inside, my mother again. If Horizon goes through, she'll outshine Melissa. That cannot happen. Don't worry, Melissa says, voice gleaming. I've already planted seeds with 3 executives. Enough doubt about Aurora's capacity. They'll revisit before signing. I stumble backward into the shadow of a fern, my heart pounding so loud I fear it will give me away. Their voices fade as they gather papers, oblivious to the daughter just outside the door, listening to her life recalibrate into betrayal. I stay hidden until the corridor empties, until I can breathe again without choking. My hands shake as I clutch my phone, thumbs hovering. Call Elizabeth? Confront them now? No, not yet. Instead, I walk quickly out of the club, snow crunching beneath my heels. Every breath crystallizes in the frigid air, but inside me, something burns. A realization sharp enough to cut. My family hasn't been blind to my success. They've been dismantling it piece by piece. And if they are this desperate now, on the eve of Horizon, then they are terrified. I lift my chin, square my shoulders against the cold, and whisper to myself, then let them be terrified. Because I am done being their kitchen help. Elizabeth is waiting in the glass-walled conference room when I storm into Aurora Events, snow still clinging to my coat. Her eyes widen at the sight of me, cheeks flushed, hands trembling around the folder I ripped from my father's study on my way out of Willowbrook. They know, I blurt, dropping into a chair. My voice cracks, not with weakness, but with the weight of revelation. They've known for years, and they've been sabotaging us. Melissa, my parents, all of them. Elizabeth doesn't gasp. She doesn't even look surprised. Instead, she slides her laptop across the table, a folder already open on the screen. Its title chills me. Family Incidents. I've been documenting patterns for months, she says quietly. Vendors backing out right after you mentioned them at dinners. Health inspectors arriving days after family parties. Clients suddenly reconsidering, always after a holiday. She taps the spreadsheet. I needed you to see it yourself before I showed you. My throat tightens. Proof. Cold, organized proof that every disappointment I chalked up to bad luck was a blade in the dark, held by people I once called family. The door opens. James Wilson, our CFO, strides in with his ever-present briefcase. At 61, he's steady as stone. His silver hair always a little unruly, his voice grounded. I ran the numbers you asked for, he begins, then stops at the look on my face. She knows, Elizabeth tells him. James sets the case on the table, flips it open, and withdraws a color-coded chart. Then she needs to see this. Lines slash across the paper like battle scars. Red spikes after holidays. Blue dips after birthdays. Green valleys after country club galas. Each one matched to a business disruption. Canceled clients, suspicious complaints, vendors suddenly renegotiating. The correlation is statistically significant, James says grimly. Too neat to be chance. I stare at the graph until the room tilts. 15 years, I whisper. 15 years, I've been fighting my own family without knowing it. Silence settles heavy, broken only by the hum of the city outside. Elizabeth leans forward, her eyes locked on mine. The Horizon contract is their target now. They're terrified of what it means if you win it. They should be, I snap, surprising myself with the steel in my tone. My hands curl into fists against the polished table. Because I'm not 18 anymore, crying in a pantry over lamb. I'm not 33, begging for a seat at their table. I'm the CEO of Aurora Events, and this time I fight back. Elizabeth exhales slowly, relief and resolve mingling. James nods once, as though I've just passed a test he prayed I'd take. Then we gather everything, he says, sliding fresh files across the table. Every cancellation, every anonymous tip, every whisper traced back to them. Document it. Build the case. And prepare for war, Elizabeth adds, her voice low, certain. I glance at the Manhattan skyline beyond the window. The city glitters like 1,000 opportunities they never wanted me to have. For years, I believed their dismissals were blindness. Now I know better. They weren't blind. They were deliberate. And if they've been playing a game all this time, then it's my turn to set the rules. I pull the Horizon portfolio from my bag, slap it onto the table with finality. No more defense, I say. From this moment, we go on offense. And for the first time in my life, the weight of their shadow begins to lift. Bellini's hums with the clink of cutlery and the soft murmur of midtown conversations. The air smells of lemon oil and garlic butter, a world away from the polished marble of Willowbrook. I asked for a central table, not my usual discreet corner. Today is not about comfort. Today is about spectacle. Anthony, the maitre d', raises an eyebrow when I make the request, but he leads me to a sunlit spot near the windows that face Main Street. This table will give you visibility, he says carefully. Are you sure? Yes, I answer. I want visibility. I lay out the documents like weapons. The health inspector's report, the pattern of anonymous complaints, Elizabeth's typed transcripts of vendor conversations. Each page is a blade, sharp enough to cut through Melissa's practiced smile. At 12:15, she sweeps in, 5 minutes late as always, wearing cream silk and pearls that catch the light. Her hair is arranged in a flawless chignon, her heels clicking a rhythm of entitlement across the floor. She air kisses my cheek before sliding into her seat, her perfume crisp and expensive. You look tired, Maeve, she says, unfolding her napkin with deliberate elegance. These big events must be exhausting. They are, I reply evenly. I slide the inspector's report toward her, especially when someone calls health inspectors to my kitchen the day before a major wedding. Her fingers freeze just long enough to betray her before she recovers. What are you talking about? The inspector mentioned who called them. My eyes lock on hers. It was you. She pushes the paper back with a scoff. You're being ridiculous. Am I? I place the second file in front of her, pages detailing the anonymous complaints. Every one of these was filed within 48 hours of family gatherings where I mentioned upcoming events. A faint flush creeps up her neck, but her voice stays flat. Coincidence. No, I say softly but firmly. Sabotage. Melissa shifts in her seat, glances toward the tables around us, noting how close other diners sit. She hates exposure. I chose this table for a reason. Just then, Evelyn arrives. My mother glides through the restaurant in burgundy wool, her smile polished, her eyes sharp as razors. What is all this? She asks, sliding into the chair beside Melissa. Evidence, I answer, my tone steady, of systematic sabotage against my company. Evelyn's expression tightens, but her voice remains honey-sweet. Maeve, that's a serious accusation. And it's backed by serious proof. I push the report toward her. The inspector confirmed Melissa called, claiming food safety concerns. Evelyn waves a manicured hand. We were concerned, darling, after that unfortunate food poisoning incident at the M sizes. There was no food poisoning, I cut in. My voice is louder than I intended, and a few diners glance our way. I lean forward. That was a rumor Melissa started. Aurora Events has never had a single case. Melissa hisses, keep your voice down. No, I snap, my voice sharp enough to slice the room in half. We've had 33 years of privacy. This time, it's public. The tables around us quiet subtly, forks pausing midair. My mother's eyes flicker with calculation. She knows we have an audience now. Melissa leans in, lowering her voice but not her venom. I was protecting our family's reputation. Your little catering business reflects on all of us. Event planning, I correct, my tone icy. A 15-year-old company with a flawless record, higher than any competitor in the state. Evelyn's hand presses down on Melissa's arm. Perhaps this is best discussed privately. No, I repeat, calm now, deliberate. Because every time it's private, you twist the narrative, not today. Melissa's mask falters. She reaches for her water glass, fingers trembling slightly. Fine. I called the inspector. I was concerned after what I heard from the Hendersons. The same Hendersons who canceled their Aurora contract a week later? I slide a printout across the table. The same Hendersons you interviewed with for your PR firm? Evelyn's smile fractures. A vein pulses at her temple, her grip on her purse strap whitening. She opens her mouth, but I raise a hand to silence her. Here's what's going to happen, I say, my voice carrying enough that the neighboring tables lean just slightly closer. You are going to stop interfering with my business. No more calls to vendors. No more rumors to clients. No more health inspectors. If you don't, the next conversation won't be over lunch. It'll be with lawyers and the district attorney. Melissa's jaw clenches, fury warring with fear. Evelyn studies me, her eyes narrowing, but I can see it. The smallest flicker of doubt, of recognition that I am no longer the girl they dismissed to the kitchen. I stand, gather the papers, and drop enough cash to cover all 3 meals. I've worked too hard for too long to let anyone, even family, destroy what I've built. The restaurant hums again as I walk away, but I feel their stares, their whispers following me. Through the window, Elizabeth waits in the company car, her smile faint but fierce. As I slide into the passenger seat, she asks gently, "Did you tell them?" "Everything," I say, watching my mother and sister through the glass. Their heads are bent together in urgent, frantic conversation. For once, they're the ones explaining. By the time Elizabeth pulls the car away from Bellini's, the fury in my veins has cooled into something sharper, strategy. The skyline glitters as if daring me to back down. I won't. Not this time. Back at Aurora Events, the conference room transforms into a war room. Elizabeth has already spread folders across the long mahogany table. James arrives minutes later, tie loosened, laptop under his arm, eyes already scanning the papers. "Tell me everything," he says, lowering himself into a chair. I recount the lunch in meticulous detail. The inspector's report, Melissa's slip, Evelyn's brittle denials. When I finish, James exhales slowly, tapping his pen against the table. Then we move from defense to offense. Elizabeth pushes a folder toward me. I've compiled financial transparency reports, 5 years of audits, vendor payment histories, client satisfaction surveys. Ironclad. If they attack, we counter with facts. James adds, and I've mapped the sabotage timeline. Every contract loss, every anonymous complaint, cross-referenced with family interactions. It's damning, Maeve. I flip through the charts. Red spikes after Christmas dinners, blue drops after country club luncheons, each one aligned with my sister's carefully timed visits, my mother's hushed whispers. 15 years of wounds disguised as coincidence. They won't stop, I murmur. Not until they've destroyed Horizon. Elizabeth's jaw tightens. Then we protect Horizon like our lives depend on it. The hours blur. We draft contingency plans for every possible angle of attack. Financial stability, vendor reliability, even my leadership credibility. James insists on triple backing every number with certified documents. Elizabeth prepares client testimonials, each one a dagger of truth to pierce rumor. Near midnight, Elizabeth sets her tablet down, exhaustion softening her face. They've already escalated, Maeve. Hiring Victoria Foster proves it. The name makes me stiffen. Foster, the PR shark, who once tried to blackmail Aurora into hiring her unqualified daughter. The lawsuit failed, but her grudge lived on. James looks grim. With Foster feeding them tactics, they'll strike harder. She knows where the pressure points are. I pace the room, my reflection in the glass wall. A stranger, jaw tight, shoulders squared, eyes blazing. If they want a war, I say slowly, then we'll give them one, but we'll fight it on our terms. Elizabeth leans forward. Which are? Transparency, evidence, integrity. We don't just defend Aurora, we prove beyond doubt that we are stronger than their lies. We make Horizon see us not as victims, but as survivors, as winners. For a long moment, silence reigns. Then James nods, firm. Then tomorrow we finalize every document, every chart, every piece of evidence. Elizabeth's voice drops to a whisper, but it carries the weight of a vow. They underestimated you for years. This time, they'll see the real Maeve. I press my palms against the cool tabletop, feeling steadiness flow into me. My mother may own dining rooms filled with senators. My sister may own gossip with teeth. But I own something they never understood. Resilience built in silence, sharpened by rejection, unstoppable now that it's awake. I straighten, look them both in the eye. We're not just defending Horizon, I say. We're defending Aurora from the people who should have defended me. And for the first time, I see it reflected back in their faces. Not pity, not sympathy, respect. Outside, the city never sleeps. Neither will I, not until this war is won. The Horizon boardroom smells of polished wood and tension. 20 executives sit in tailored silence, the Manhattan skyline blazing behind them like judgment. At the head of the room, Gregory Townsend, Horizon's CEO, gestures to a chair. Miss Arden, thank you for joining us. I walk in flanked by Elizabeth and James, each carrying portfolios thick enough to crush lies. Across the room, my mother sits ramrod straight in burgundy silk, Melissa beside her, and, of course, Victoria Foster, the PR vulture they hired to gut me. Before we proceed with the contract, Townsend continues, certain concerns have been raised regarding Aurora Events' stability. Victoria rises smoothly, her chignon tight, her tablet glowing. After reviewing available records, we discovered troubling inconsistencies, declining client retention, financial instability, and management concerns. Charts flash onto the screen, doctored graphs designed to twist my company into fragility. Melissa glances at me, smug. My mother folds her hands as if in prayer. My father avoids my eyes altogether. I wait until Victoria finishes, then stand. Mr. Townsend, I say evenly, Aurora has nothing to hide, which is why I've brought certified audits from 2 independent firms. I slide a USB toward Horizon's tech director. 5 years of financial records, flawless vendor payments, client satisfaction scores. James distributes folders down the table. His voice, calm and commanding, cuts through the hush. Our retention rate is 87% over 5 years, well above the industry average of 62%. Revenue growth? Double digits, 5 consecutive years. Every claim Foster presented is selective misrepresentation. Victoria bristles. Those numbers don't account for Enough, Townsend says, already frowning at the documents. Elizabeth steps forward, tapping her tablet. A timeline appears on the main screen, marked with red flags. What you are seeing, she explains, is not instability within Aurora, but deliberate interference from external parties. Every anonymous complaint, every sudden vendor withdrawal, each one correlates with specific family interactions. The word family hangs like a blade in the air. I meet Townsend's gaze. This isn't business oversight. This is sabotage. Coordinated, intentional, personal. Gasps ripple around the table. My mother's smile falters for the first time. Melissa's knuckles whiten around her water glass. Preposterous, Evelyn snaps. We merely express concern. James interrupts smoothly. Then perhaps you can explain why calls to our vendors trace back to your home phone. He slides phone records forward. Or why Melissa emailed Foster weeks ago, specifically mentioning Horizon. The room tilts. For once, it isn't me losing balance. It's them. Townsend leans back, steepling his fingers. Miss Foster, were you aware of your client's personal ties to Miss Arden? Victoria hesitates. Too long. I was approached as a consultant. By Melissa Hale, Elizabeth cuts in, producing the email chain. The projector magnifies Melissa's name in bold. The board murmurs. Townsend's expression hardens. Miss Arden, continue. I let years of silence break all at once. Aurora has coordinated presidential fundraisers, celebrity galas, corporate rebrands. 15 years of excellence. Every setback we suffered wasn't incompetence, it was sabotage by my own family. Melissa shoots to her feet, voice shaking. This is an ambush. No, Townsend says coldly. This is evidence. Executives nod, flipping through certified audits, testimonials, timelines. The tide shifts. My mother sees it, her posture stiffening into brittle pride. I press the final blow across the table. The health inspector's report, naming Melissa as the anonymous caller. "This is what family loyalty looks like in my house," I say quietly. The silence afterward is louder than any accusation. Townsend clears his throat. "The Horizon Board will deliberate. Miss Arden, thank you for your transparency. Miss Hale, Miss Foster, any further interference will be considered legal obstruction." Melissa collapses back into her chair. Evelyn's lips part as if to protest, then seal tight. My father stares at the table, the weight of shame bending him smaller. Elizabeth squeezes my hand under the table. James sits taller, a rare smile flickering. For the first time in years, I am not the daughter explaining. I am the CEO commanding. The waiting area outside Horizon's boardroom feels colder than the Manhattan streets. Elizabeth sits close enough that our shoulders touch, her calm a lifeline. James paces, muttering numbers under his breath like incantations. I clasp my hands in my lap to still their trembling. 15 years of building Aurora, 15 years of swallowing my family's dismissals, all of it now balanced on the other side of that door. 30 minutes crawl by like hours. At last, Townsend opens the door. "Miss Arden, please join us." We rise together. My pulse hammers, but my steps are steady. Inside, the long mahogany table gleams under recessed lights. My family's chairs are empty. They left. Cowards. Townsend clears his throat. After reviewing the evidence, the board has reached a unanimous decision. Horizon Resorts is awarding Aurora Events the national rebrand contract. The words crash into me with such force I almost sway. Elizabeth's hand finds mine beneath the table. James exhales audibly, relief etched in every line of his face. But Townsend isn't finished. Furthermore, we'd like to expand the partnership. Aurora will become Horizon's exclusive event partner worldwide. My breath catches, not just vindication, ascension. Applause breaks around the table. Executives shake my hand, voices congratulating, eyes impressed. I thank them. My voice steady, though my chest burns with a mix of triumph and grief. Triumph, because I won. Grief, because it took exposing my family to be seen. When the meeting ends, we step into the crisp winter air. Snow flurries dance against the city's steel and glass. Elizabeth hugs me, her whisper fierce in my ear. "You did it, Maeve. You stood your ground." James grips my shoulder. "Numbers don't lie, and neither do you." I tilt my head back, watching snow spiral through the skyscraper canyons. For years, Christmas meant humiliation in my parents' kitchen. Now it means this: contract signed, a company secured, a woman remade. 6 months later, I stand under chandeliers in the Waldorf Astoria's grand ballroom. A crystal award gleams in my hands, prisms scattering across the applauding crowd. "Success requires both talent and boundaries," I say into the microphone. The Aurora Foundation exists to support women whose families don't recognize their vision. Elizabeth beams from the front table. James nods proudly beside her. Around us, industry leaders rise in ovation. From the corner of my eye, I see them, my parents and Melissa, standing awkwardly near the entrance. Invitations sent out of courtesy, not expectation. My mother's perfect posture trembles at the edges. My father shifts uncomfortably, older somehow. Melissa's gaze darts, calculating. When the applause fades, I cross the room slowly. "Thank you for coming," I tell them, polite but distant. "There's a table reserved for you near the center." Melissa studies me as though I'm a stranger. "Your speech was impressive," she admits. I smile faintly. "Thank you." Then I excuse myself to greet the mayor. Their approval no longer matters. The foundation, the contracts, the people who believed in me, this is the family I chose. Later, as Elizabeth loops her arm through mine and we step into the falling snow, she murmurs, "Next year's gala will be even bigger." "With even more success stories to celebrate," I reply. For the first time in my life, Christmas holds no dread, only possibility. The snow that December night fell in hushed sheets, coating the city in quiet brilliance. 6 months had passed since Horizon's boardroom showdown, and in those months, Aurora Events had become something far larger than I once dared to imagine. Revenue up 35%. New offices opening in Miami and Denver. My foundation lifting 3 women into businesses their own families had tried to bury. But success is a strange companion. It fills the void, yet leaves shadows where love should have been. At the gala's end, As guests drifted toward chauffeured cars, I spotted them. My parents, standing near the exit like statues misplaced in a temple not theirs. My mother's crimson lipstick couldn't mask the fine cracks at the corners of her mouth. My father's posture, once towering, bent slightly as if carrying weight no portfolio could offset. Melissa lingered beside them, clutching her designer bag like a shield. I approached slowly, champagne glass still in hand. Evelyn cleared her throat. "Maeve, your grandmother would have been proud." The words landed heavy, not praise, not apology, an invocation of the only family member who'd ever seen me clearly. "She taught me that talent deserves respect," I answered evenly, something I intend to pass on. For once, neither of them replied. The silence was louder than their dismissals had ever been. Elizabeth appeared at my side, slipping a discreet hand through the crook of my arm. "The car's ready," she murmured. Behind her, James lingered, his expression proud but protective. My real family. I gave my parents one last look, then turned away. 1 year later, the Waldorf chandeliers glowed again, but this time for the Aurora Foundation's annual report. Photographs lined the glossy pages. A bakery in Brooklyn, a floral studio in Queens, an event agency in Boston. Women who once whispered dreams now stood tall with storefronts, employees, and ledgers full of promise. "They dismissed you too?" I asked one of them, a woman named Samantha who had been told by her father to find a practical job. She laughed, eyes wet. "He said flowers were a hobby, not a business." I touched her shoulder. "Then prove him wrong. Respect isn't earned through their approval, it's demanded through your persistence." Later that night, snow again painted the city white. Elizabeth and I walked arm in arm to the waiting car, the award in my hand catching light from the street lamps. She smiled. "From the kitchen help to this. You've rewritten the story." "No," I corrected softly, watching flakes settle on her hair. "I just stopped letting them write it for me." For the first time in 33 Christmases, I no longer carried the ache of needing to be seen. I carried only the certainty of what I'd built, who I'd chosen, and the future waiting ahead. And this time, the silence of falling snow felt like victory. The year after Horizon, December arrived, not with dread, but with anticipation. Aurora's headquarters glowed with garlands strung across glass walls, employees laughing as caterers served a feast I hadn't cooked, for once. No kitchen exile, no mother's dismissive smile, only genuine celebration. Elizabeth raised a glass from the center of the room, to Maeve, who built Aurora with integrity when others tried to tear it down. Applause thundered, louder than any applause I'd ever craved from family dinners. Later, when the guests trickled out into the snowy streets, James approached me, leather briefcase in hand, his eyes softer than usual. "You've made Aurora untouchable," he said. "But more than that, you've made it yours." I nodded, the truth settling deep. Untouchable. Mine. The following week, the Aurora Foundation hosted its first winter showcase. Women I'd mentored stood proudly beside displays of their businesses, shelves of fresh bread, cascading floral arrangements, portfolios of design work. Their voices brimmed with the fire of recognition finally earned. One of them asked me quietly, "What do you do when the people you love most are the ones holding you back?" I paused, the question slicing through me like memory. "You build anyway," I said gently. "And you let your success become the answer they can't argue with." At the gala's close, I spotted them again, my parents standing stiff near the entrance, invitations clutched like they were unsure how they'd been allowed inside. Melissa lingered in the shadows, her perfect smile dimmed. My father stepped forward first. "Your grandmother would have been proud," he repeated, the same words from months ago, but this time his voice trembled with something that sounded like regret. I studied him for a long moment. "She always believed in more than my cooking," I replied. "She believed in me." Evelyn's lips parted, but no words came. Perhaps for the first time there was nothing left for her to dismiss. Outside, snow fell in delicate spirals, the city glowing beneath it. Elizabeth linked her arm with mine, her warmth grounding me. "Next year will be bigger," she murmured, smiling up at the flurries. "With more women rising," I agreed. I lifted my face to the snow and let it melt against my skin. For the first time in my life, winter didn't feel like a cold exile. It felt like promise. The kitchen daughter was gone. The CEO remained. And I would never again mistake silence for love.